Good morning. So this morning, I'm going to tell a story. And part of this story is about a day I spent with my daughter, Brianne. So because I try to be a fair parent and cause my children equal measures of distress, I'm going to start with a little story about Zach. So one evening, we were at the fellowship hall having a meal. I think it was the Harvest Festival. Zach was about 4 years old. And somebody across the table from us, as we were eating, was telling a story. And the person said, telling a funny story, said, I could see the devil in her eyes. We played our games and ate and packed up our food. And on our way to the car, Zach said, I knew it. I said, you knew what, son? I knew it the whole time. Son, what did you know? I knew the whole time the devil was a woman. Sorry, son. So have you ever been in somewhere and missed the moment? For instance, you're watching a great basketball game, and you reach down to keep your toddler from falling off the bleachers, and you miss the best game of the night. Or maybe you've got an armful of clothes, you're out shopping, and you get to the register and the cashier says, oh, I'm sorry, the sale ended yesterday. Well, I had a day like that. A couple of friends and I decided to go pottery shopping. And I'd never been pottery shopping, but I was pretty sure I'd like it. So we went to Seagrove, to Frogtown, early one day in November for the kiln opening. So several other potters were setting up their pottery, and we noticed one in particular, Jim Havner. He had some pretty interesting figures, and we stood and watched him unload them from his car onto a table. They were a little pricey, so we thought we'd walk around and see if there was something we might want more. As we walked around, we kept talking about Jim Havner's figures, mud critters, he called them. As we made our way back to the table, we were trying to decide which one we might buy. We noticed that a few people had lined up in front of the table. Not in a single line, but across the front of the table. We thought, that was kind of odd. Everyone just stood there, blocking everyone else from being able to see what was on the table. And when we tried to pick one up and looked at it, they looked at us like, you are crazy. So we stepped back and thought, listen, it's almost rude. Well, at 9 o'clock sharp, as we were standing near the table, we heard Jim quietly say, I believe it's 9 o'clock. And the people standing there just put their hands on the figures. Within 10 seconds, all 30 pieces had been spoken for. We couldn't believe it. We were there first. What's going on? If we'd known the rules, we could have gotten one. And how the other people must have pitied us, listening to us talk about, oh, I don't know, I think I'll get this one. I don't know, maybe it's too expensive. Not realizing that we weren't even going to have a chance. Well, I got over it pretty quickly. But one of my friends, for weeks afterward, kept mumbling, I can't believe we were there and we missed it. So the next year, Jim decided to handle the kiln opening a little differently. So the mud critters were really popular, and I guess he didn't want everybody fighting over them this year. So the kiln opening was at his shop. He had made about 60 figures, and each person would get a number. And then we would go in numerical order and choose a piece. So I decided to take somebody with me who would be up to the challenge. So I took 5-year-old Brianne. Now, even as a young child, Brianne, she was goal-oriented and she could follow directions. And I knew I could count on her to understand the importance of the mission. So when we got there, we all went inside, looked at the figures, couldn't touch them, couldn't pick them up. Hands off. Well, we all went inside and browsed, and then we all went back outside the room to choose. And the room was set up with, it was a small room, had tables set across. There was just room around the tables for single file to walk around and in between. So after we looked at it, we walked outside and we drew numbers. Well, Brianne got 17. I drew 29. Now, there were 2 figures that I liked. I could have coerced her a little bit to pick one of mine, but she really liked the figure of a little boy in a cart being pulled by a goat. Goat boy, she called him. So I was just hoping it would still be there when her turn came. So when her turn came, I told her, you may not be there, but you can see. So she went inside and I went with her. And she proudly picked up that goat boy And we went outside and put them in the box we had brought for our treasures. When my turn came, I was torn because there was 2 figures that I wanted. And both were still there. So I decided to get the one I thought Zach would like. It was a cowboy leaning on a barrel. So far so good. Brandon and I had gotten 2 figures we wanted. So after the 40 or so people had chosen, he said we could all go back in, and it was first come, first served. I was like, all right, here we go, game on. I am in it now. That's why I brought Brandon, that's why I brought a partner. So Brandon and I went back inside. There were several people in front of us. Tables were close together and it was hard to maneuver. So I looked across and I saw the other figure that I wanted. It was Jesus carrying the cross. But there was no way I'd be able to get to it in time before somebody else put their hand on it. So I leaned down to Brandon and I said, Brandon, here's what I need you to do. I need you to get through all these people and get over there to that figure of Jesus and put your hand on it. Don't pick him up. Just put your hand on it. She said, how am I supposed to get over there? I said, I need you to crawl underneath these tables. I said, you get down and crawl underneath these tables. People, when you get in between the tables, and you need to scoot around, people just say, excuse me. Little 5-year-old girl, who's going to say no? So she made her way across. And I said, when you get there now, just put your hand on it. Now, Brienne is a little better now, not a lot, but a little better now at not showing her emotions. But back then, you could see everything written on her face. And as she maneuvered and crawled under the tables, if there had been a movie, music score playing, would have been a thing from Mission Impossible. But she was on it. So finally, she crawled out from under the last table, and I saw her hand come up like this. And she put it on that Jesus, and she stood up, and she looked at me across the room with that victory on her face, and she knew it was a secret mission, so she whispered in that child's whisper, I got the Jesus! So as I slowly made my way to her, because it took a while with all those people crammed in there, I was thinking, I hope you do get the Jesus. I hope you don't think that because your parents are Christians, or that because you go to church, you're a Christian, or that because you were baptized, you're a Christian, or because you put money in the plate on Sunday, you're a Christian. And I started thinking about what Jesus had done for me, and I imagined how that conversation must have gone between God and Jesus. And I imagined it went something like this. God and Jesus were sitting in a banquet hall in heaven, and God said, I need to talk to you about something, Jesus. You know, here in the South, the really serious conversations are around the dinner table with a glass of tea. So I imagine God said, Jesus, I believe now is the time. You know those people that I created on earth that I love? Well, they really need a Savior. They are weak and selfish, and fight amongst themselves. They are sinful and prideful. But I created them, and I love them. They were created to want a relationship with me, but sometimes they try to look around and see if there's something they might want more to fill that need. Sometimes I see a glimmer of hope in them, but they need you, Jesus, to bridge the gap. This sacrifice that I'm asking of you, it won't be easy. You'll have to pay the debt for their sin. You'll have to leave the glory of heaven and live on earth for over 30 years. You'll step away from your throne, you'll remove your crown, and you'll wake up in a manger where animals eat their food. Your first moments on earth will be a rude awakening. Even the smells will be different. You'll live a perfect life, even in your human form. Not that your life will be perfect, but you will be. You'll teach them, heal them, lead them, and yet they won't understand your true mission. Even after all you sacrifice, they'll praise you one day and take your name in vain the next. They'll beg for your forgiveness and show their brother no mercy. They'll question why you didn't do more, not realizing how much you have done. You'll have to be crucified and rise again in order to save them. And in your death will be great humiliation and suffering. But now's the time, Jesus, the time to make a choice. But son, there's something you need to understand. When you hang on that cross with your arms outstretched to carry the sins of the world, when you hang there, suffering and dying, holding their sin, I won't be able to stand to look at you. The choice is yours, but now's the time. And I imagine Jesus stopped and thought a moment and said, I'll suffer in pain and I'll believe for them so that they will know joy and peace and be washed clean. I'll be separated from you, Father, and I'll die alone on that cross on earth for them so that they can have a relationship with you and live forever in heaven. As I picked up the Jesus that Brianne had her hand on, I thought to myself, I hope you and Zach don't miss it. I hope you don't hear all about this Jesus, but wander around wondering if something else might come along that will seem better. Or hoping that you'll still have time enough to find him when you want to. I hope you don't sit in church and do all the right things, thinking that you've been good enough to earn your way to heaven. I hope you get the Jesus. The ground at the foot of the cross is level. There's no one of us that is any better, any more deserving of heaven than another. Revelation 3:20, here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. The choice is yours, but now's the time. Don't miss the Jesus.
Amen.